Susanna just retired from the Kanawha County Public Library system, so she would be the perfect person to speak to what I am about to next reveal to you. Libraries are strange places to work. Oh my goodness. I only worked in one for 7 years. How many did you do? 20. I only worked in one for 7, and nary a week, hardly nary a day was to pass that something astounding did not occur to me that was worthy of noting in my head and writing down when I got home. For instance, one day while I was at the circulation desk, waiting to check in things, a family of patrons came to the library. Mom, Dad, little kid, walked up to the desk with a big old stack of books, sat them down there before me, and ran off to the children's room to find some more. So I began checking these in one at a time with our barcode scanner, beep, and I got through the stack of books, which were pretty much for Junior, and then I got to what I assumed was one of the parents' rentals, which was the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson magnum opus, The Scorpion King, in DVD format. Only when I picked up the DVD case, it had this kind of curious rattle sound to it, as though the DVD had not been seated properly upon the knobby little spindle within. So I popped open the case and had a gander, and lo and behold, the DVD of The Scorpion King was seated on that spindle. The pornographic DVD on top of it, however, was not. Now, Lee Maynard's not in the room, so I can censor myself, because otherwise he would look down on me. So I won't reveal to you the very descriptive title of this 4-hour DVD of European pornography. But I will say that it did involve, one of the words that was in it did involve the word double, and the other one was penetration. So I'm guessing that's 2 laddies in the rye. So I stood there, kind of bewildered as to what to do next, because every option on my plate seemed to cause embarrassment for all parties involved. Now, if I had been Mr. Cool, I would have slipped over to the dad and said, "Excuse me, sir." He would have said, But look at me. I'm not Mr. Cool. I sat there in a panic, wanting this cup to be passed away from me to someone else. So I went to find my boss. And after she spent about a minute laughing her ass off, she asked me if I knew who the patron was that had brought this back. And I said, yes, he's downstairs in the children's room with his whole family. I said, I don't know what to do. She said, give it back to him. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, just tell him you found a DVD in the Scorpion King case that was not ours and you would like to give it back. So downstairs I went to certain doom, and sure enough, within a few minutes, the whole family approached the circulation desk with their big stack of books, mom, dad, and kid right there. Now, I knew this had to be handled delicately, but here's where I may have made a mistake. You know how every once in a while you'll see a story in the news about some poor moron of a restaurant manager who decides to fire an employee at the beginning of their shift, but then expects them to finish out their shift? And then, of course, by the end of the evening, they find half a turd in the mole sauce and 50 cases of E. coli on their hands. Well, I kind of did the library equivalent of that. Instead of checking the man's books out first and then broaching the subject of the porn, I served the porn up as my opening move. I said, excuse me, sir, we found another DVD in the Scorpion King case, and it's not ours. And I slid it across the desk face down. The man picked it up, took a 1/4 second glance at its cover, and pocketed it without even a mumbled thanks. Only then, tension and discomfort thick in the air, no eye contact being made by anybody, did I begin to check out their books. Beep. Stamp. Beep. Stamp. Beep. Stamp. Look for where we hit the barcode on this one. Beep. Stamp. Through the first 10 books that they had brought to the desk. When I reached number 11, I said, "Sorry, sir, we've run out of room on your card. Do you have another?" And he said, "No, that's okay." And he gathered up his books, and he gathered up his child, and he and his wife walked out the front door, and then I ran to the window because I wanted to see how this was going to play out once Mom and Dad hit the car. I mean, really, you can just imagine the verbal beating that guy was going to receive for not only putting 4 hours of European porn in the Scorpion King case, but turning it back into the library? How do you even do that unintentionally? Or maybe it was the mom's fault. Maybe they were in a rush that morning. They were trying to gather all of Junior's things. She just ejected whatever was in the DVD player and slapped it in a case and brought it on in. Could happen. Regardless, I don't believe we ever saw that family or those items ever again. Our final presenter for the first part of the evening requires no stinking introduction. He was here on day 1 of West Virginia Writers and was here at the very first conference, and he is an amazing poet, Mr. Kirk Judd.
Thank you, Eric. First poem that I'm going to do is kind of appropriate for a writers' conference. It's a found poem, which is a whole genre that is out there. Barbara Smith, who's teaching workshops here this weekend, is a master of found poems. Because the poems just are out there. You just find them. Sometimes all you have to do is just write them down. You don't have to craft them. They just kind of write themselves. And this is kind of a found poem. The title of this poem is a found title. It's based on an Associated Press article that was printed in the paper a few years ago about one of those infamous government-funded studies that was done at the University of Iowa Writers' Workshop, which is the writers' workshop in the country, or it has been for years. And this study went on for 10 years. So you can imagine the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they poured into this study at the writers' workshop. So the title of the poem and the headline of the article are the same. Item: art and madness linked. No shit. My next poem. Also has a couple of links to this writers' conference. Some of you may know our esteemed guest, Lee Maynard, is going to be the featured author in the summer issue of Appalachian Heritage Magazine. And this poem I'm going to do is also going to be published in that issue of the magazine. So I'm doubly blessed. I'm going to be published in Appalachian Heritage, but and also in the same issue with one of my heroes, Lee Maynard. So the other tie to this is that back when, in a galaxy far, far away, when we founded this organization, one of the things we wanted to do was have more venues for writers. We knew we had good writers in the state, still true. But we wanted to get them in front of the public, so we wanted to sponsor readings. Now, I was living in Huntington, West Virginia, and there wasn't much going on. But in Charleston, because of the buzz that we created with West Virginia Writers, there were some things happening. And Mike Pauley, who this organization owes a great debt of gratitude, and another friend of mine, Bob Snyder, sponsored a reading in South Charleston. I don't remember exactly where it was, but you could see the mound from where we were reading. And Bob called me up and said, "Kirk, we want you to write a piece for this reading, specifically for this reading. Everybody in this company is writing a piece and reading it at this reading. And that's what we want you to do." And I said, "Well, I don't do assignments, okay? I'll come and I'll read, but I'm not going to do that." But I thought about it, and I did it, and I wound up reading this poem at that reading, although I don't think it's exactly what they expected. So this is a poem about going to Charleston to read poetry. It's called Visit Charleston. Well, what you do is, if you're coming west on 60 and you run out of gas on top of Gauley Mountain, well, you just don't hit your brakes, and if you catch all the lights right, well, where you stop rolling, well, that's Charleston. When you get there, stay low. Don't show them too much. Just get your timing down. Tell them what they want to hear. What you'd really like to do is hit the streets, slip out of that poetic mellow and kick into a primordial chainsaw screamer. Just rip the bars all night and then bounce into the bus station for breakfast in the morning with steam coming off your shoulders. Nobody wanting to get within 10 feet. Feel that satisfying glaze of fear coming over what's left of your eyes while the gravy dries in your mustache. When they ask you why, just tell them like you said before. It's more fun than being happy. And I'll do one more quick poem and get out of here. This one I like because I wrote it in my own workshop, which is pretty cool. And I got lucky enough to visit Ireland a few years ago with a bunch of musicians and writers and dancers and singers. And we did gigs all over the island, and it was a lot of fun. The audiences really liked it, and this was the favorite poem of theirs. And a lot of you know that I write poems about music and West Virginia music. There's a little vernacular in the title of this poem. The old timers, instead of saying there is or there will be, like after the show tonight there will be a bonfire, they would say they is or they's. They's going to be a bonfire tonight. So the title of this poem is They's Music Tonight. Feet slap time in the old slab floor, moonglow slips through the puncheon door, fiddle-bows dance in the orange firelight. Come on, boys, there's music tonight. Thumbs double down on a high-fist string, fingers frail and a banjo's ring. Quart jars pass from hand to hand. Come on, boys, it's a hot time band. Mouth screwed up in a crooked grin as the notes fly out of the mandolin. Ears wide open and eyes shut tight. Come on, boys, there's music tonight. Wrist been hard around the guitar neck. Pick blurs quick and a fancy lick. Sandbox sends out a holy shout. Come on, boys, they're a bustin' out. Martha Campbell and Cumberland Gap swinging on a gate in the foxtail track. Old Plank Road, the girl I left behind. Get on, Cindy and Evangeline. Shoulders sway to the bass thumps movements as dancers whirl around the room. Toes tap rhythm in pure delight. Come on, boys, there's music tonight.
Thank you.